welcome to the Deal Final Corner. So this is your weekly property talk show brought to you by Property Filter, hosted by myself, Guillaume Black, your favorite Frenchman, and the CEO and co-founder of Property Filter. And it's the UK's highest rated platform to find deals. And as you know, we're on a mission to empower property investor and our deal sourcer members to find 1,000 deals this year, thanks to the Property Filter blueprint. And really the purpose with those Deal Final Corner is to give you more and the best of the available resources by inviting expert guests who will share with you the latest, the most current strategies, tactics, and secrets about what actually works right now in terms of finding and making deals and the reality of systemizing and running high-performance business in property. And a little bit of a change of format. So these sessions used to be open to the public, open to people on our free trial, and we've now made them a lot more exclusive and restricted to our members only, so that you get more access to, as the quality of our guests, as you will agree today, is just increasing week on week. So it's really my pleasure to introduce to you my very good friend Cyril Thomas on today's Deal Final Corner. So Cyril has been a very active figure in the UK property investment industry over the past 20 years. He began investing in property in 2006, and after years of growing his own portfolio and other property-related businesses, he founded the Property Investor Bureau to provide support and education in the wider property investor segment. And he is the organizer of the Property Investor Awards since now 12 years, and which were established by the Property Investor Bureau and are now the most prestigious event in the property investment industry. It's a yearly award at the end of the year. And it's highly rated and regarded by investors, developers, and service providers across the UK. Cyril is also a dedicated member of the Colchester Roundtable, which raises funds for worthy local charitable causes. So when Cyril is not, preparing for, doubling the size of his awards every year, and when Cyril is not lobbying government and the private rented sector, to do all things property. He also runs some other specific industry events, such as the Property Educator Host Summit. He's behind, so the Property Investor Bureau are behind the accreditation scheme for property educators. So look out for this little logo when you are buying a course, basically. So what can you expect from today's episode? So a little bit of a different format, so where we're going to have a bit of a conversation with Cyril, and we're going to talk, of course, about the awards. How can you become an award-winning property investor, and really how does this award can impact you overnight? Once you hold the golden, very recognizable property investor award trophy, and we'll pick on Cyril's brain, on all things property sector, property investment sector, because Cyril is at the forefront of lobbying, conversations with government, and things like that. So I'm very, very much looking forward to speaking with Cyril today. So please give a massive Property Filter virtual welcome to Mr. Cyril Thomas. Cyril, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for that welcome. And I must say, when Guillaume asked me to do this, I did say to him, Guillaume, I'm not a big fan of public speaking, believe it or not. I tend to be more of the put your head down and just get stuff done. And there are a lot of other people out there who really enjoy the limelight and are really good at doing the whole public speaking thing. But I said, Guillaume, you're a friend, and I do believe in your product as well. So I'll be happy to help out if it adds value to your audience.
Thanks so much, and thank you. Yes, indeed, you are a man of few words, and not quite hard to get publicly. So I'm really grateful for to having you today. So can you tell us a bit more about what is the Property Investor Bureau, and then leading into the awards? What is it and why does it matter for the industry?
Okay, so to give it some context, the Property Investors Bureau is the organization that runs the Property Investors Awards. But interestingly enough, the Property Investors Awards was created before the Bureau. Then the Bureau had to be created to encapsulate it and to do all of the other functions which exist around the awards. So I will start with the awards first, because it makes sense given that it came first. So for your members, I can't see many people on the screen. I can see that we've got a few participants. I would like to see a show of hands in regards to who's heard of the Property Investors Awards before, to sort of know. Okay, so the several people that I see on screen have all raised their hands. That's good. So The awards actually started more than 12 years ago. It was about 15, 16 years ago, and it wasn't an award ceremony when it first started. It was a formal dinner or end of year celebration, one might say. So I started my property investment journey back in 2006, and I just graduated. Well, I bought my first property in the penultimate year of university, and when I graduated from university and saw all of my friends go off to work in organisations and had their end of year parties, there was a lot going on in the office. They had instant groups, instant social groups that they were integrated into. I was there in my bedroom because being a property investor in the early years, you tend to just do a lot of stuff from home. And I was looking at everybody out there having fun, and I wasn't getting socialized as this student who was just about to graduate and had no real way of developing a social network outside of my university friends who were all moving back to different parts of the country. So I decided that I'd make a phone call to a few people in the industry that I knew at that time and say, so we get together at the end of the year for an end of year celebration and just do our own thing. And I made a few phone calls, and over 100 people showed up in central London to this venue that I had hired, and basically we had a really good time. That went on for 3 years, growing by roughly about 30% each year for the first 3 years. And it got to the point where I'd extended my social circle so much that actually the end of year celebration no longer had as much value to me because I already had that social network. But people still expected me to host this end of year celebration for independent property investors. And I decided at that point that in order for it to add value to what I'm doing, and in order for me to still add value to the industry, it might be a good idea to integrate some awards. But I also decided that I didn't want the awards to just be a kite mark. I wanted there to be a trustworthy and transparent judging process. I wanted there to be reputable judges around the table that people would see their names and know that they wouldn't put their names to it if it wasn't something that was reputable. So I put together, I believe, a judging panel of several people, including Richard Bowser of Property Investors News, Ranjan Bhattacharya of the Baker Street Property Meet, and a few other things, and a number of names that you would all recognise. So the first Property Investors Awards just had 2 trophies in it, and I wasn't quite sure how it was going to go, but when we handed out the awards on the night, people went wild. They really embraced it, and I don't know if it was because they understood that it wasn't just a kite mark and the people who won truly deserved to win. But all of a sudden, we went from just being an end of year celebration to being this event where people really wanted to be winners of these trophies, winners of these awards. And at that point, that made me more enthusiastic about putting more resource into developing it further and doing the things that would take it to the next level. So to cut a long story short in that respect, today, as we stand, we are an event that's gone from 100 people to this year will be 1,000 people in the Grosvenor House Hotel in Mayfair. And we have a judging panel that is currently sitting at about 60 plus. But my goal is to take it to 100 people and cut it off at that point. And then it'll be a 1 in 1 out for judges. And the reason why I say that is because, as you know, a lot of the judges on our panel, they're quite influential figures. They've got personalities. And we want to ensure that there is no way for any one individual on the judging panel to have enough sway to totally, I suppose, guide the judging process. By having 100 individuals from different parts of the industry, whether it be the financial sector, the legal sector, the education sector, general property investors, people who are interested in the legal aspects of property, it just means that we will have a range of opinions, and anyone who does win any trophy at our award ceremony will truly deserve it. So I've looked at a number of other award ceremony models, and the model they tend to follow is you have one judge who is judging the whole category. Yes, I believe that works for certain types of award ceremonies, but we always want it to be a case that you'll have a minimum of 30 plus judges judging an application, soon to be 100 judges by the end of the year judging any application, which means that you'll get a lot of feedback from that because there'll be a number of different scores for each application. But also, you'll know that looking around the table, there was not one judge that had the ultimate say on your application. It was many people throughout the industry, a lot of people who actually don't know each other, never seen each other before, but only have met each other through the judging. Gwilym?
That's really interesting, Cyril. So from very, very early on, basically, you had the vision to make the award. You know, I can't remember the term you used, where you know it's not going to be just some fake awards, basically. So very early on, you had this vision of make them really thorough and very in a way that people really deserve them, and then the whole judging process was you know very thorough since the first ceremony you actually did. So that's quite interesting. So how does that kind of work? So you mentioned about 30 judge looking at an application. So can you take us through the journey of so there's
Yes,
people on
I
this call,
can,
right?
and
There's
I'll
people
actually
on this
provide.
call.
Okay, so I'll provide more context. So what I haven't told you or your group yet, your community, is that my first love, yes, I do love programming, but my first love is actually software engineering. So I said I do love programming. I love it
Good
so
man.
much. I've said it already. I do love property, but my first love is actually programming. So I spent a lot of time over the years developing systems for the Property Investors Awards and other ventures I'm involved with. I don't actually program for anybody else. Uh, I don't sell my programming time, but I do a lot for our organization. And we've invested a lot of time and effort in developing software which enables the judging process to be smooth and transparent. And it also means that we can handle 100 judges without too much issue. Whereas if it was to be a manual process, it would be almost impossible. We'd probably have to have 3 or 4 people actually just managing that particular process, which would become quite expensive. And it's probably why most award ceremonies don't do it. It's quite a task. So what I keep doing year on year is investing time and effort in the systems that surround the awards, because it's the systems that make it transparent. If it's a case of every single judge has their own judging portal, and with that portal, through that portal, they can log in, see your applications, and cast their judging votes, then all of a sudden it becomes a technical thing. So once they put their score down, the system then does all of the calculations and then tells us exactly who the finalists are and who the winners are. It's an objective thing as opposed to subjective.
Awesome.
I also realized some time ago that it's quite important to ensure that the quality of the venue and the quality of the audio, AV, the visual, etc. You have to invest in that sort of thing, because if somebody's going to spend a few hours filling out an application and then all of the other resources in regards to making sure they're there on the night, and I know it's quite emotional for people too. When I didn't realize this when we first started, but when you're a legitimate award ceremony, people take it very seriously. And when you are the only person in the room who knows who's won on the night, and you look out into the audience and you see the faces of people as you're announcing the winner is, like, the reactions have been unbelievable. You know, even as I'm saying it now, it makes me tingle a little bit, because I remember one particular fella, when he was announced as the winner of, you can go back and look at who this is, it was Property Trader of the Year. He jumped onto the table and just went, "Wah!" He had no idea what he was doing, but he really went for it. And everybody else, the room erupted as well. And to me, that's a sign of an award ceremony that people understand, well, these people have really put in effort, and actually they've been accepted by the entire industry as the person who should win the awards. And it literally is life-changing. As soon as you win one of these awards, the next day, the very next day, you're getting approached by media, you're getting approached by people who want you to come and speak at their events. You're even getting approached by people who want to finance deals that you're going to be doing in the future. So it's something that people take very seriously. And those people who win an award, they tend to apply and reapply, because they've seen what it does for them in 1 year. And they go on to think, well, actually, we want to continue to experience that. Now, some award ceremonies would just take the winners on the night and say, we've announced it on the night, we've announced it on the website. That's as far as our responsibility goes. With the Property Investors Awards, it's an all year round thing. So we are literally supporting our winners all year round, whether it's through taking them to the Baker Street Property Meet, or taking them to the Property Investor Show, or putting them on podcasts, or supporting them through helping them with PR. We're continuously putting them on a pedestal so that people can know that actually for that particular year, they are the people who are in the limelight and they deserve everything that they get. We also know that people have used our awards to secure finance from not just private investors, but institutions. Because when you look when you look around our judging panel, you have people from Shorebrook Bank, you have brokers, you have people from 9Y Capital, you have high quality law firms, people who are continuously looking at applications for finance and deciding on who to give their money to, who to back. Now, you have to think, these people, they want to back winners. They actually do want to lend money. So if they've been qualified, if the client has been qualified by an entire industry, most finance companies, organizations, institutes, they want to get behind that individual and be attached to that, what some may call fame. It's publicity for them. Willem.
Yeah,
I don't
awesome.
want to go too much in a direction without getting feedback from the group as to in regards to what you want to be into.
It gives a very clear, for people who are not aware, like very clear reason as why to apply to the awards. So I mean, we know a lot of examples of all these people who won the awards, and then there's a before and after. So I really want to encourage everybody in the community to apply, because there's lots of endless number of really brilliant people in the property filter community, and then I'm sure there's some that really will deserve to win on that important and very special night. So Cyril, do you want to take us through the process? So what's involved when you apply, and then in terms of the judging, what are the criteria, and what would make like a good application? And if you have any sort of secret tips for the property filter guys. So tip number one is you need to find your deal on property filter. Tip number two,
we do need to get some property filter deals through to the winning round this year. So
I agree.
Yeah, we encourage it in the entire community. But what we've done recently, actually, in line with making things very transparent and ensuring that there's no room for manipulation, we've actually said that to everybody who submits an application, that we do not want you to put anywhere in your application who your mentor is, who you've been taught by, where you've got the deal from, if it's a software application or anything like that, because you've got to think, I like Gwilym. Sitting around the table, there may just be someone out there who may not like Gwilym, because maybe they're a competing software or something like that. And we don't.
Everybody likes us, Cyril.
Of course, everybody will like you, of course, but we want everybody to score based on the application's merit, the merit of the investor, and only the investor. Now, if it turns out that that deal was found through property filter, then you're going to shout to the roof about that after you've won the awards, and that's where the benefit comes in. In regards to how the process starts, so the process is very straightforward to start off with. You just go to propertyinvestorsawards.co.uk/, I will get the / I believe it's nominate or nomination. I'll just make sure I give you the correct information. If I can do it, I will drop it into the chat on this.
Yeah, I found it, Cyril. It's fine. Yeah, I found it.
Okay. If you just drop the link into the chat now, anyone can nominate. You can nominate someone else. You can nominate yourself. It takes a few minutes to nominate. Nominate only entails you putting in your name, your email, and selecting the category that you're nominating yourself for or that person for. So that's the easy part. Once you've done that, you'll soon hear from us within a week or so in regards to the application. So you'll be issued with a password and a login, password and a username, and you'll be able to log in and then complete your application. And I believe the deadline for applications is the 31st of July, but there's a benefit. So if you fill the application in within a certain time frame, nice and early, I think you actually get some benefit. I think there's a discount on the application fee or something like that. But you'll be able to go on. There's actually a nominations guide which will take you through all things nomination. So the team put together a lovely nominations guide earlier this year, and I believe that's been quite popular. So you'll be able to download that from the website as well. Now, once you've submitted your application, the next thing that happens is that fully automated process. It goes through to all areas of our team, and then on the judging days, which are 2 days in September, I believe it's the 12th and the 13th, all of the judges come together in a location in central London, and then they start discussing your applications. They score your applications. If we're going into what makes an award-winning application, which is why maybe a lot of you came here today.
It's the only reason I invited you, Cyril. I just
the only reason you invited me. I know this. So First and foremost, I'm not a judge. I have no sway over the scores of your application. I made that decision from the very beginning that I would not be on the judging panel because I thought there would be a conflict of interest to be the founder and organizer, but also be on the judging panel. So no matter how many whiskies or ports you buy me, unfortunately, I have no sway on the result of your applications. All of the other judges do. So on the judging day, it's interesting to watch the way in which they, I suppose, decipher the information that's been provided and the way in which they discuss things, because they have varying opinions. They will go through the application and then they'll be asked to then all keep their opinions to themselves at the very end and say, it's now time to judge, it's now time to cast your scores, and nobody knows each other's scores on the day. They're not allowed to discuss that. On the day, you'll also realize that you may get a phone call from the judging panel. So sometimes, once in a while, the judges will say, well, this looks really good, or this seems quite interesting, but we don't quite understand it. And we want to call the individual who put forward the application, see if we can get more information. So it's always good to have those 2 days in your diary, the 12th and the 13th, just in case the judges do want to contact you, because it's the worst thing if they do try and call you and you're not available. In regards to the application itself, the judges love a concise video which has all of your figures, the basic figures. We do give you some direction in regards to which figures to include. They love to see the before and after pictures in the video, or before and after shots. And they love to see something which just shows a bit about your personality, who you are. Because many of our awards are actually, they factor in who you are, your journey, what you've achieved, what you've had to overcome. And it's interesting because there are a number of individuals out there who do some very good things, who are very good investors. And in a particular year, we had a situation where previous year winners came back and submitted awards which were very similar, but the deals were very similar to that which they did last year. And don't get me wrong, they were fantastic deals. But the judges didn't look too favorably upon them because they hadn't shown any growth. What they had done actually was very smart. They'd learned a formula and just continued with that formula. But to win an award at the Property Investors Awards, the judges want to see growth. What challenges have you had to overcome? How have you demonstrated that you have evolved, that you move forward? So you can win an award year after year, but that means year after year, you need to be dedicated to improving and changing and making what you do more substantial. That would have been the thing that would have enabled them to win. Now, we have people who come into the awards process who most people have never heard of before. So it's not a case of, oh, just those people with a social media profile are going to win, or those people who are on the scene, on the circuit. Judges couldn't care less about all of that stuff. One chap last year surprised us all. I'd never actually heard about him before the actual judging process.
Who the hell is Sam Patel?
I wasn't going to mention names, but yeah, Sam Patel. So, and this chap, he won 4 awards on the night. That's a record. He won 4 awards. Now, the truth of the matter is that up until the very night before the deadline, he was humming and hawing about submitting the application. And our operations manager, Sophie, said, listen, whether or not you believe you're worthy, whether or not you believe that you deserve it, you will never know unless you submit the application. So he almost grudgingly submitted these applications in 4 different categories. And on the night, there were some big hitters in the room. There were some people who people know very well, and that they do some fantastic things. But he walked away with 4 trophies on the night. And as far as I'm aware, up until today, he's still somebody who doesn't really like the limelight. He's walking around with these 4 trophies that people would do anything to get. But he's not one to actually go on stage and do all this stuff. And I have people calling me saying, Cyril, we've reached out to this gentleman, but he just seems to be too busy just doing stuff. He doesn't really care about the limelight. But if that's what he wants to do as his year as a winner, perfectly respectable. Gwilym, give me direction.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that that's really useful. So basically, you have to show this growth, year on year, and I think that's really interesting. And also the message about the last example is really whether you think you're worthy or not, you don't know until you submit the application. So and there's lots of people who are sometimes too humble for their own good, you know, like they really deserve certain things, but they don't have the hint of, you know, them putting themselves forward and things like that. So if anything, if you are in this community, and I know everybody is awesome, I would really encourage you to put forward an application for the one niche, the one deal, the one thing you've done this year, and it's really, really worth it. And other than the awards, even if you are not an award winner, I say having enjoyed the evening, you know, the award ceremony, it's a really, really good night, you know. And Cyril, you've really helped the game from this year because of the venue. So you're going in the most prestigious venue in central London, the biggest ballroom, you know, there is, and this is going to be the event of the year for property investors. So yeah, I'd recommend everybody to get invited at someone's table or get a ticket. You know, it's really yeah, it's going to be the evening in the industry, and we have the very man here who organized it. So can you tell us more about the night? You know, like what's
Yeah,
happening on
so
the
I will
award
actually.
ceremony?
Thank you, Gwilym. So first and foremost, I think Gwilym, I know you're going to be there with Hanif and the guys, and
Yeah,
I would be surprised if you don't have your own community, because most people like Gwilym will have their own community tables there. So what I would advise, I would encourage you all to do is to get in touch with Gwilym actually and say, well, Gwilym, is there going to be a property filter table? Because then you have your community within the community, and that works quite well. At least 30% of the people there are not actually interested in the awards. They're there for their end of year celebration. Because if you remember that, I originally started, it was founded as a end of year celebration, end of year, almost like a Christmas party. So that fun element, that element of actually we're going there to celebrate our wins for the year, to celebrate the fact that we've got through another year, we've made progress, and we're looking positively towards the next year. That's why a number of people have continued to come year after year. We have people who've been coming since the very beginning. You know, I can mention names today of people who consistently just take two tables every single year, no matter whether or not they're associated with anyone winning an award. I would also say that if you are planning on coming, it's good to plan early, because central London, around that time of the year, you know, room rates become a bit more expensive, etc. And just those who plan early, I think, have a better experience. We will have a number of allocated rooms, which you'll be able to maybe contact Willem about, or Sophie. I can leave the details for Sophie. So if you are planning,
are the tickets live? I think we did. I don't know if it's because I'm a judge and
yeah, so people can't
I
buy
got
tickets online yet. That's going to be released within the next few weeks, but we do have a sort of a special pre-release for our inner community. And Gwilym, I believe you must be part of the inner
yeah, yeah,
community. Sophie would have reached out to you directly
yeah, yeah.
about your stuff, and then the public will be able to purchase tickets on the open market in, I think, about 2 weeks from now. But you
So
will be
the stuff's official with me. Can I share it with the property filter guys, or how does it work? Or
Yeah,
is it
you can, but all that will happen is so if you're taking, let's say, two tables, you'll be able to
yeah,
say to the property filter guys, we've got two tables, it's a first come, first served basis. So I know that other network partners of ours, that once their tables are gone, then basically say, well, you can contact Sophie and the team, and you can ask them to be seated near us, but there's no guarantees. And that also means that those people who act early within your community get the benefit of just basically securing their space with your community, as I'm quite sure a number of you will know each other and want to sort of maybe be around each other on the night, in addition to making new friends.
yeah, cool, yeah.
Now, because we are the largest independent property investors awards in the UK, you tend to find that you can fit in quite a lot around that night. So I know people who get the most out of it, they make almost like a weekend of it, where they'll have meetings booked in before the event, they'll have a few things booked in for the day after. They'd really make sure they get the most out of it, because you've got people coming from up north,
What
you've
is
got
there?
people
Yeah, yeah,
from
yeah.
the west, the east, and they're all going to be there. You know, you've got all of the big names there, and you've got the media that was going to be there too. So you can start to structure the day and the night in such a way which you can just extract so much more value from it. We're working on some technology which will enable you to sort of know who's going to be there on the night and message people, because we think it's quite important to try and give you the ability to interact with each other. So once you've bought your ticket, our aim is to be able to embed into the ticket portal some form of platform that enables you to see, if you want to, and if you want to let people know you're going to be there, to be able to see those people who are going to be there, and for other people to also see that you're going to be there, and maybe reach out to you long in advance to say, well, actually, let's get together, let's talk, let's maybe meet up. We've been on social media for so long, on each other's LinkedIn's and Facebooks, etc. let's have a bit of a discussion beforehand and do something meaningful before the main event.
Cyril, you sold me on the idea of meeting up everybody before and after. So what's happening on the night? You know, how does that work?
So on the night, so it starts off with the networking drinks, and that is the reception. It's a black tie, so you come in your best wear, and as you come in, there'll be music, there'll be entertainment, there'll be all of the things that you expect from a first class event. And then we announce that it's time to be seated. So you'll go into the main ballroom, which again, as Willem mentioned, is one of the most prestigious rooms in the UK, or I believe it's the largest ballroom in the UK. I think the next step from here is to go to somewhere like the Excel Centre, which we're not going to do because it's a different thing altogether. And once you're seated, you then get met by the hosts. The hosts will give everybody some information about the event, and then you'll see a few speakers, a few meaningful speakers. On from that, you will be served an exquisite meal. So one of the conditions of us moving the event to this venue is that their food has to be better than what we had last year. Now, last year was fantastic. It was at the Intercontinental Park Lane. And what I found with a lot of these black tie events that I go to is that you tend to just pull up with the food. It tends to be, okay, what's it going to be? Is it going to be the chicken? Is it going to be the this? And it's all quite basic and mass produced. But we put a lot of effort into making sure that you get a first class meal, and people always talk about that. So at this venue, they know that they have to do better than Intercontinental. So we're really looking forward to seeing what they can produce for us. And then you get the
you got me, Cyril, last year with the food. You know, I'm so picky, and you know, like with food and stuff, unforgiving. So
I was going to say, Gwilym, did I not see you take 2 plates?
no, just
I'm playing.
just the one. But
Yeah,
no,
so
I can vouch for the food. You know, like it's proper nice. You know, for what, as you say, what we're used to in some of these things where they're done a bit on the cheap. So yeah, well done.
no, that's okay. Thank you. And then once meals served, then you will then be led into the actual awards element of it. Now, this part of it, you go to some award ceremonies and you think, oh, you know what, it's just going on and on and on. And you think, well, actually, this is just a formality, but this actually becomes a very exciting part of the night because it's done in such a way that it's transparent and nobody knows in the room. You can't pay to win any award at an award ceremony. You can, if you want to be a main sponsor, there's no way for you to put in 20,000, 40,000 pounds and expect an award on the night. So if that's the ambition for anyone who wants to sponsor, unfortunately, that's not what's going to happen. So we invite up the person who's going to announce the awards winner. They don't know who it is. They're handed a golden envelope. Everybody goes quiet. They normally look around the room. There's a bit of a drum roll, and then they take the name out of the actual golden envelope and they announce it, and the whole room just goes crazy. It's like I can only imagine that it's like, you know, at a football match when a goal is scored or something like that. Because I'm not a massive sports fan, but I see sometimes when I watch these things that people just get very excited, and in the room, the energy is just so real, it's so pure, and that's why it's so important for me as I suppose the founder and organizer to put so much effort into keeping the judging process as legit, as transparent, and as reputable as possible. Now, moving on from the actual awards, I suppose, trophy section or trophy section of the night, you then get the entertainment. Now, we never let you know what the entertainment is going to be before the main event. So last year, we caught everybody by surprise. I think, Gwilym, do you remember what happened last year?
Yeah, the waiters got nuts, dropping some
Yeah.
stuff and.
So the funny thing is we organized, and we've got a great team. They organized this entertainment. I totally forgot what the entertainment was. So I'm sitting at my table, and this waiter walks in and he drops this cutlery or crockery on the floor, and it all smashes to bits. And I'm like, oh my gosh, things were going so well. I totally forgot he's part of the entertainment. So there were a thing called singing waiters. And when they dropped the stuff on the floor, the whole room went quiet. And then the waiter sort of fell over and he picks himself up and somebody helps him up who was also part of the acting. And then they break out into some song and dance. And everyone's like, 1 second, this is a bit strange. What's going on here? Then 2 minutes later, like you look around, everybody was on their chair, waving their hankies in the air to all sorts of music. I think there is some footage of it somewhere. But no, it was fantastic. And then after that, there was a disco. There was a disco in the room next door. after the disco, for those people who had VIP passes, because there's VIP passes and gold passes, the VIP passes were allowed to go to the after party, and the after party was in a venue down the road. It was restricted to, I think, 150 people of the 600 or so people that were there. And those people partied on to about 4 a.m. I think I was in my bed by about 3 a.m. and I was getting phone calls from people saying, Cyril, yeah, the after party's finishing. We're all going to the casino. At that point, I said, listen, I'm going to put my phone off. I've done my job. I think no one's going to hold it against me if I just get some sleep. So, Gwilym, is there anything else you want to add to that? Because I think you and Hanif may have actually showed up at the after party.
Yeah, it was really, really good, So, I mean, again, I said it before, and especially with the game you are putting up for this year, basically doubling the size from last time, it's going to be the biggest property reunion of the year. And I mean, it's quite, I know the ballroom, you booked for this time from previous work experience. And then for all of us solo entrepreneur, yeah, I mean, there's no opportunity for us to go to a place like that, ever, so that's quite, it's quite going to be really nice. And then you want to, everybody in the room are people you want to connect with. So yeah, I believe it's going to be the event of the year. So that's, yeah, really, really, really cool. So I'm guessing when we have the tickets available, I'll share with you guys. I'll probably share about inviting you to nominate yourself. I'll nominate some of you for sure, because I'm aware and I believe in some of the work you guys do, and then we'll share if possible. There's some like early birds or something for people for the night, and if we can make it as. Is there a system like this, Cyril, where the
Yes,
earlier?
so Gwilym, I believe for your tables, you're on the pre-release, so I believe you get a rate which is even more discounted than the standard early bird, and you have the option to pass on that discount to your members. So people who, let's say you take your 2 tables, people who are on your 2 tables are likely to be paying less than they would when the early bird gets released.
Okay, yeah, I'll look it up. And okay, that's great. And I'm guessing, so yeah, I wanted to talk about the judging process, the history of the awards. Why did you set it up? And we covered that. Wanted to talk about the evening itself. And really, is there anything, in as a broader can people get involved, like in the awards or help you in some ways other than just booking a ticket?
It's a very good question. So I need to be better with this because we do get a lot of people who reach out to us and say, Cyril, we like what you're doing. We just want to be involved. Can we help out on the night? Can we do this? And that's fantastic. I still need to put things in place which enables us to do that. And if you, I'll give it some context. I have a programming mentality. So I'm used to sitting down and putting things into modules, and with modules, you try to limit the amount of variables, the uncertainty within a program. Now, I do believe that there's value to be had from people who just want to help out, but I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do that without taking away anything from the main night and not having control over people's experience, you see? So we do have some volunteers who have been around with the awards since the very beginning, and they show up year after year, and they're fantastic, but we are looking at the best way in which to do that. And I might have to get some advice from Gwilym, because I know that Gwilym is fantastic about bringing the community together and having people help them out at certain events, etc. But how you do that in regards to just volunteers' time and how you make sure that it's also in line with your greater plans, your wider vision,
Yeah.
I'll need to speak to you about that.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, happy to help and support. So I guess this is a time where we're gonna push it to yourselves. If you got some question for Cyril, like it's quite, as I said earlier, we've got quite rare. Cyril is quite rarely. People don't know who is behind the awards. Like people don't really know Cyril, so quite a rare occasion to have a bit of a chat with Cyril. So I don't know if some of you have got some questions, and feel free to type something in the chat. And then
William, I was just going to say, do you want to do some questions now, or do you want to talk a little bit about the Property Investors Bureau and then have the discussion?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I was very focused on the awards, but of course, yeah. Let's. If you've got some questions, type them in the chat, and then I'll work through these with you. And yeah, let's talk about the Property Investor Bureau, the work you do with the Property Education Accreditation Scheme, and things like that. Yeah, be awesome.
Okay. So just to give the Property Investors Bureau some context, although it came after the awards, it was very much an idea long before the awards. So when I graduated from university, in addition to creating the Property Investors awards, I created a local event called the Essex Property Network. I'm out in Essex, Colchester. I originally came from London and then moved to Essex for university, and stayed there for, I suppose, business and love. I met my beautiful wife at the university, and we've been together ever since. That was back in 2007. So yes, it's a long time ago. So the Essex Property Network back then was a network which I created because, being a young property investor, I bought my first property when I was 21. I needed to try and figure out a way to speak to the people who were doing things in the industry without having much value to add. So I didn't really have much value to add to people because I was just a young investor who had not really had any reputation. So I created the Essex Property Network because I thought, well, if I can't add value from my experience, maybe I can just add value through bringing people together and providing resources for those people. And I did that through the Essex Property Network for 10 years. And that actually gave me my network, which has enabled me to grow the Property Investors Bureau, the awards, and a number of other things. I then decided that what we're doing with stuff on the local level, I quite like to do on a national level. And that's where the idea of the Bureau came into play, because I get quite excited about providing value for people on a large level, or I suppose in a large way. Now,
scalable way, yeah.
Yes. So what I tried to focus on was, okay, technology seems to be a thing that can really help empower people. And as I was looking at the way in which different communities operate, I said, well, actually, what if we were to try and decentralize the property industry? What if we were to try and allow everybody to connect and communicate with each other? So when you jump off a call with Property Filter, if you want to speak to somebody in another camp, you can still speak to them, knowing that you've got your tribe, but you should be accessible by all. And that's when I came up with the idea of the memberships of the Property Investors Bureau, where you'll be able to have your own profile on the Bureau, and anyone, anywhere in the UK will be able to find you as a property investor, reach out to you, and just basically start forming connections wherever you are. And it's great for people, things like Property Filter, where you're finding deals all the time. You can't know all of the investors in the UK. So if you're now saying you're going to find a deal in Hull, but you're based in Leeds, or I don't know, maybe they're close. Let's say you're finding a deal in Hull, but you're based in Watford or London. You want to be able to go somewhere and just say, well, actually, who are the investors who are most prominent in those areas? And on the same note, you want to be able to be found. You want to be, if you are in Colchester, like me, and somebody finds a deal in Colchester, Neil, you're in Colchester? We'll have to connect. Okay, so
I think their meeting is called the Essex Connect as well. So yeah,
I think I might have seen something about that actually. We'll definitely connect. Fantastic. So you want to be able, so if somebody from Hull has a deal in Colchester but has no idea, who to connect with, you want them to be able to find you even though they don't know you. So that's where we started to launch the Property Investors Directory, where you'll be able to log on. There's a few people on there at the moment because we haven't gone mainstream with it. We're just making sure that we do the beta version, and you'll be able to connect with people. You'll be able to have your profile on there, and that will grow. That will end up going out to our database of about 20,000 people within the next 1 month. We also, about 3 or 4 years ago, created the Property Educators Accreditation Scheme, the first of its kind. And this is actually where Willem and I really connected, because we met in the Property Investor Show. They found out about the Property Educators Accreditation Scheme, where we are the only accreditation scheme for property educators in the UK. Not CPD, nothing like that. It's a scheme where property educators, let me give it some context. An incident happened in the industry some time ago where property educators' reputations were called into, well, people believe the property education industry was in disrepute. And us being, as investors, being very much a part of that, whether or not we know, we are directly linked to that. Property investors are directly linked to the property education industry, because actually the property education industry is teaching a new generation of property investors. So I decided that I was going to try and put together a scheme which would bring together the reputable property educators, those people who wanted to see the industry thrive and survive, and say, well, actually, let's not wait for the government to force you ought to do something. Let's put best practices in place that we can all subscribe to and push the industry forwards ourselves. So we decided on what do we call it now?
Like a label or
No, code of
practice?
practice. Code of practice. Put together a code of practice, and I consulted with many areas of the industry on this code of practice. I went out to property forums, I went out to educators, I went out to people involved in legislation, and the result was this code of practice, which can be found on the Property Investors Bureau website, which all educators who are involved with us subscribe to. We also said it's mandatory for every property educator to have clear and defined terms and conditions on their website and on ours. We said that they need to have a money-back guarantee that's clear and concise. We said that they need to have a clear complaints procedure. And they need to be open, they need to be transparent. So people can reach out to us now and complain about educators if they feel they've been done wrong, if they feel there's been a grievance that has not been dealt with adequately. Keyword there, not been dealt with adequately. You need to give them a chance to deal with the situation. And after 3 years of being involved with this, we've had a handful of complaints. We tend to find that those people who sign up to the accreditation, they go above and beyond to try and solve things in-house before it gets to us. And we also decided that we don't want it to stop there. We want it to be a case of, actually, people don't think it's Cyril and his mates doing this, but we get credible organizations to back us. So we've got the PRS, who are our redress scheme. So if we can't handle it as the Property Investors Bureau, it will go straight to the PRS, who are independent from us and government backed, and they will be able to make a decision based on this situation. Now, I do know that, there are only 2 government-backed schemes in the UK, and I know there's going to be changes with the incoming government, etc. But, we also have a relationship now with trading standards, and we're building on this stuff year on year. It's not something that's going to happen overnight in regards to the industry changing, but it's something that we're working towards. And year on year, we just do a little bit more to make sure that we are having an impact. We do get people who contact us and just say, we have no idea who to go to and subscribe to in the industry. Who do you recommend? And our response to that is actually, we don't recommend anyone. We do recommend you doing your research. Now, when you go to our website, you look at the educators that are on there, you'll be able to see their profiles. You'll be able to reach out and contact them directly and decide who's right for you. So it's not a case of, we will tell you who's best for you, but you'll be able to have enough information and you at least know that they all subscribe to a baseline in regards to, they will have their terms and conditions, their money back guarantees, their complaints procedures, and they also go through a 6-month probation period. That probation period, anybody can complain about them, they can put comments on the application, can let us know why they potentially shouldn't join their scheme. Now, if you are I suppose, untowards property educator, you're not going to want to go through that process because you don't control it. You're going to want to stay away from that process. And we found that most of the educators who maybe have reputations for not being that savory, they do stay away from our scheme because it will be embarrassing for them to put themselves or subject themselves to such a situation.
How many educators do you have on the scheme, Cyril, at the
I
moment?
think we're roughly sitting in excess of about 50. Now, I know we've got several people going through the application. We always have several people go through the application process at any one point in time. And recently we've had like the NRLA apply, which was quite refreshing because, the NRLA, I think they're the largest landlord association in the UK. And they've looked at what we're doing and said, you know what, we actually really like what you're doing and we want to be a part of it. They do have educators as part of their platform too. So they're going through that. We have some very well-known names. I'm not going to call out any individual educators' names. I think it's not the time and place to do that. But you'll all be able to go into the website and look at the different educators that are on there and see the people that are applying to become educators too. And any of you in the audience, if you are educated, if you do any form of property education, I encourage you to get in touch and we can see if we can put you through the process as well.
It's really interesting. So obviously I'm aware about this and your work since a while, and I'm curious. You want to type in the chat, guys, if you knew about this scheme, yes or no, and just to have an understanding if because I assume you might not be aware that there's such a scheme and that because all of us, we would have gone through some form of education of some sort, and then we might not know when we do due diligence about these guys if it's important or not. So I'm just wondering if you guys knew. So it's kind of 50-50 for now. So yeah, no. So yeah, we've got some work, Cyril, to do. You and
We've
I
definitely got
to.
work to do, Gwyneth. You know, so when trying to change an industry, you know, you sort of have to have some sort of a plan. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always envisioned that the first 5 years of me doing stuff in this industry, doing stuff with the PIB, doing stuff with the awards on this level, it's not going to be a case of we're out there really shouting about it. We're just creating the systems, we're creating the infrastructure, we're getting stuff done. And what will happen is there'll be early adopters. The early adopters are the people that have signed up already, the people that are on this call, actually. I'll call them early adopters because you're on this call, you've logged in, you could be elsewhere doing things, but you're becoming educated, you're starting to understand about things that you never knew existed. Now, there will come a time where the infrastructure is all in place to go mainstream. And when I say mainstream, I mean, can we handle potentially 100 complaints in a day? If that potentially happened. Or can we handle, you know, the flow of 1,000 people exchanging messages on our platform in a day? We're getting close to being able to do that, but you don't go out and shout about things, I think, until you're 100% sure you can deal with the growth that's coming your way. Now, I know, Gwyneth, with Property Filter,
You're overly cautious. Overly
you are
cautious.
experiencing a lot of growth yourself. I know that the people in this call are just a fraction of your community. And I know that Property Filter that we see today is going to be different from the Property Filter that we see tomorrow. Because there'll be more things, you will have evolved. There'll be things that you'll be able to add value to, ways in which you'll be able to add value to your clients, which they're not even thinking about today. And it's the same thing with the Property Investors Bureau and what we're doing. There are certain things that I have planned that if I start speaking about on this call, you'll probably look at me and think, you know what, Cyril, we were with you until you came up with those grand ideas. Maybe stick to what you're doing and just, well, it's about understanding the process. I know that you deal with first things first and you let people have what they can handle today.
So yeah, if anything, if you walk away from this call with this awareness of this scheme, and if you are looking into property education for ourselves, I know we only recommend people who are approved under this scheme. Yeah, so if you're more aware of this, and if some of your friends are looking into education, I would recommend that they look into this as one of the due diligence they do when they want to decide to work with someone. And I do believe this is going to be a gold standard for this industry around the education, and I do believe it's doing us, and everybody a service, by leveling up basically this whole education sector. So
Brilliant. One thing which you may not know is that we've recently launched our events portal. And the events portal, so we know in the industry, there are a lot of fantastic events out there. And I just want to make sure that everybody has access to all the information all the time. So we haven't done a hard launch of this, but if you go to Property Investors Bureau / I will tell you now. Actually, I'll try and put the link in the
is
chat.
that for like networking events and stuff?
No, I'll explain it.
Right.
This will be all property events. Now, I'm actually hoping that the tech guys aren't working in it now because let's have a look. Okay. So it will be for any property event there is, whether it be a physical networking event, whether it be an award ceremony, whether it be the Property Investor Show or a monthly networking event. We've got a private group at the moment of about 12 to 15. Good, it does work. I'll put the link in the chat. 12 to 15 event organizers and educators who are just trialing the system. And you'll be able to see the events on there. Actually, what I should have done, Gwyneth, was I should have given you a login and asked you to put this on there so that people would have known about this via that too, because you can put webinars on there. Where's the chat in this thing? Let me see.
Third thingy on the bottom left.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, obviously with the stuff. So you do the Educator Summit, we do the Property Meet Host Summit. So there's a lot of synergy here we can look at as well. So
precisely. So we'll be able to put that on there too. And basically, I want it to be a case of that. There's no reason for you to miss anything good that's going on. If there's anything going on local to you, you'll see that platform will continue to develop out. There'll be ways in which we include pin drops. So if you put your address in or your postcode in, it will show you just the events in your particular area. But We just want to keep on rolling out resources that are going to help you as property investors. You know, it's going to help as you find your deals on Property Filter. When you come over to the Property Investors Bureau, you've just got another network there, a wide network, which you'll be able to do a lot more with in regards to, okay, well, I may not be able to buy this deal myself, but I know that it's ample resource out there for me to put that deal out to other communities in such a way that can get me results and can get me paid for my efforts, despite the fact that this deal may not be one that I'm going to purchase myself.
Cyril, that's awesome. So yeah, you're on, on a bit of a roll here to do quite a few of the things I wasn't aware of. So that's awesome. So Property Investor Bureau, the Property Educator Acquisition Scheme, the Property Investor Awards, and now this portal for meetings.
I'm going to stop there, Gwyneth, because like I said, I don't want to overwhelm anybody. And once you start going into the wider vision, then it becomes a bit interesting. But what I will say is that, we're only currently doing 5% of what my vision is. And my vision is just to really empower the industry as a whole, because I think that property investors, we do fantastic things. I think we are entrepreneurial. When you look in areas where people go and invest in derelict buildings or buildings that a lot of people just don't know what to do with, we go in there, we inject life, we inject creativity, we do things that other people don't want to do. And then we got the day-to-day. So if you're a property investor who holds on to deals, landlords, people don't appreciate what we do, what we house people. I've got 2 children, a son and a daughter. Gwyneth, I know you've got a child too. Is it 1 or 2?
The 1-year-old this month.
Yeah. That's right. Now I know that Gwyneth and I, when our children become 10 to 15 years old, and they ask us, "Oh, Dad, what do you do for a living?" We don't want to say, I'm a property investor, because they've seen on the Daily Times comment section or something like that, that property investors are the scum of the earth. We want to be able to say, we're proud to be property investors. We make a difference in our communities. And actually, this is the fantastic stuff that we do.
Cyril, I was going to ask you for a closing sentiment, but I think you did fantastic. Do you want to add something before I let you go and we go back to our landlordy and in property investor days?
No, all I'll say is that, I've tried to make this call or this webinar not about me as an individual, because, on the most basic level, I'm an investor just like you all. And I'm an active investor just like you all. I started investing in 2-bedroom flats. I now invest in commercial properties, and I do love investing. So we could have had a lovely discussion just about property investment and deals.
Deals, yeah.
But I figured that you can have that conversation with anybody who comes on one of these calls, because we're all property investors. So I'm open to questions. If there's anything you think that you would like me to go into more detail about, happy to take the questions. And yeah, no questions too silly or too small. And if there are no questions, I'm equally as happy.
Very inviting, huh? Right, no, I can't see any question in the chat, but thanks so much, Cyril. Thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to help us, and even busier than I thought, involved in lots of stuff. So really appreciate it, and really appreciate everybody's time, to come and listen to this conversation we've had with Cyril. So yeah, thank you very much for joining today's Deal Final Corner. So do watch out, keep your eyes peeled for some emails as we get some early bird stuff for the Property Investor Awards. So it's probably going to be the next few weeks, and so your opportunity to get booked for the night, and also together with this recording, we might share the link also to nominate yourself, nominate your friends, and I encourage you and everyone in this community deserves to be an award winner at this prestigious award. So yeah, I'm going to push this a little bit, because I know some of you guys are very, very talented, but not necessarily like maybe too humble to do it on their own. So I'm going to push you a bit on that. And so yeah, thanks a lot for joining us today on today's Deal Final Corner. In the meantime, visit propertyfilter.co.uk. Log on to your Property Filter account, check on the deal blueprint where you can define your goldmine area, engage with motivated sellers, assess properties in seconds, load your pipeline and make deals, have an endless supply of deals, join the top 1% of people who are actually high achiever deal finders. I hope you enjoyed today's Deal Final Corner like I did, and I look forward to speaking with you next week. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much, Willem, and thank you to your community as well for having me. If you want to reach out to me or connect to me anywhere, I think LinkedIn is probably the best platform. So just find me on LinkedIn, Cyril Thomas. should be easy enough to find there. It's been actually, you know what, it wasn't that scary. I was wondering who wants to listen to what I have to say for now, but I actually quite enjoyed it. So thank you very much, and I look forward to connecting with you all.
Thanks so much, Cyril. Thank you. Really appreciate you joining today, and yeah, appreciate your time, mate. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you very much. Thank you for the kind feedback as well. Really appreciate it. And I think Cyril appreciates too. Thank you so much. Bye bye.